Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. In chapter 43, we explore the concept of feedback in the context of Dewey's theory. Simply put, if a subject receives positive feedback from a behavior, that behavior is more likely to be repeated. Conversely, if the feedback is negative, the behavior is less likely to be repeated. Positive feedback includes outcomes like gain, victory, approval, and excitement, which can invoke happiness. Negative feedback includes outcomes like loss, failure, restriction, and fear. We've previously discussed how behavior leads to environmental feedback, which then reshapes the behavior pattern. However, as we learned in the previous chapter, what we call a behavior is often a generalization that can be broken down into multiple behaviors. Additionally, due to the phenomenon of multiple behaviors, same practitioner, the environmental feedback for a generalized behavior is multifaceted. Positive or negative feedback is a simplified summary of this multi-phased feedback in a primary direction, similar to a resultant vector. Understanding this helps explain why seemingly illogical behaviors are repeated. From the primary direction, the subject may receive negative feedback, but, but from other directions, the feedback may be positive. From this, we can also understand that the principles of combinability and multi-significance apply to our explanation of feedback. The circular chain of G waves behavior feedback G waves G shows that feedback is also subject to com- combinability and multi-significance. Understanding the vector effect of multi-directional feedback helps explain why loyal ministers in ancient times were often beheaded for their frank remonstrations, while sycophants, sweet words, and bad advice were often adopted by the emperor. Even if the advice was correct, the harsh rebuke itself was a form of negative environmental feedback, which inevitably participated in the vector effect and even determined the direction of the resultant force. We can also understand why having many toys and cute pictures in a vaccination room makes babies more cooperative during injections. We can even imagine that if we could significantly reduce or eliminate the pleasure derived from various drugs through methods like vaccination or other means, or even turn the pleasure into discomfort, the problem of drug addiction would greatly improve or even cease to exist. It's important to note that the positive or negative feedback from a behavior does not necessarily refer to the final outcome, but more likely to the process. For example, the feedback from drinking behavior is not just the pain of vomiting when drunk, but also the pleasure of drinking. From a temporal perspective, the direction of the final feedback can be entirely different from the process feedback. Although these two types of feedback occur at different times, they can both reshape the corresponding Jew. It, yes, reshape the subjuice of the combined Jew, thereby affecting future behavior. Accordingly, we call these two types of feedback process feedback and terminal feedback. If the two types of feedback are in the same direction, the change or reinforcement of future behavior is often most effective. If they are in different directions, the vector effect determines the outcome. For example, if a job is drinking tea, surfing the internet 10 times the monthly salary plus bonus, the number of applicants would be overwhelming. Conversely, if a job is scooping fences, minimum wage and wage arrears, there would be very few applicants, and those who do apply would likely be desperate. Why? Because the vector effect determines the outcome. If they can apply, it means they have even worse options. If there are two more jobs, one is drinking tea, surfing the internet, minimum wage and wage arrears, and the other is scooping fences, 10 times the monthly salary plus bonus, how many applicants would there be for each? Take a moment to think about it. From this job application example, we can easily see how, how the direction of process feedback and terminal feedback determines future behavior. So, if a teacher wants their students to excel academically, what should they do? They must make the students love learning. Yes, easily promote the students' learning behavior. In terms of process feedback, they should make the class as interesting as possible, not put too much pressure on the children, never physically punish or insult them, and not assign overly heavy homework, thereby creating strong positive feedback. In terms of terminal feedback, this should help the children see that what they learn can be applied in reality, bring, bringing benefits, rewards, or other things that cause happiness, rather than scolding the children. Why only 18, 98 points? Where are the remaining 2 points? From the perspective of the country, if a field lacks talent participation, it must be supported, reducing or changing the negative feedback of the process and or terminal of that field. Similarly, if a field is overly popular, it will affect resource allocation and the positive feedback of the process and or terminal should be appropriately weakened. Alright, that's all the content today. See you next time. Bye bye.